I am placing this code in the public domain. Do with it as you will. This software comes with no guarantees or warranties but with plenty of well-wishing instead. Please visit http://eharder.net summarizable periodically to check for updates or to contribute improvements. At author Robert Harder. At author Rob at iharder.net. At version 1.3.4. Public class BASE64. Specify encoding, value is true. Public final static boolean encode equals true. Specify decoding, value is false. Public final static boolean decode equals false. Maximum line length, 76, of BASE64 output. Private final static int max _line length equals 76. The equals sign, smiley face, as a byte. Private final static byte equals _sign equals, byte, equals. The new line character, \n, as a byte. Private final static byte new _line equals, byte, \n. The 64 valid BASE64 values. Private final static byte alphabet equals byte, A, byte, B, byte, C, byte, D, byte, E, byte, F, byte, G, byte, H, byte, I, byte, J, byte, K, byte, L, byte, M, byte, N, byte, O, byte, P, byte, Q, byte, R, byte, S, byte, T, byte, U, byte, V, byte, W, byte, X, byte, Y, byte, Z, byte, A, byte, B, byte, C, byte, D, byte, E, byte, F, byte, G, byte, H, byte, I, byte, J, byte, K, byte, L, byte, M, byte, N, byte, O, byte, P, byte, Q, byte, R, byte, S, byte, T, byte, U, byte, V, byte, W, byte, X, byte, Y, byte, Z, byte, 0, byte, 1, byte, 2, byte, 3, byte, 4, byte, 5, byte, 6, byte, 7, byte, 8, byte, 9, byte, plus, byte. Translates a BASE64 value to either its 6-bit reconstruction value or a negative number indicating some other meaning. Private final static byte decode ABET equals -999999999, decimal 0, 8. -55, wit e space, tab and line feed. -99, decimal 11 to 12. -5, wit e space, carriage return. -9999999999999, decimal 14 to 26. -99999, decimal 27 to 31. -5, wit e space, space. -999999999, decimal 33 to 42. 62, plus sign at decimal 43. -999, decimal 44 to 46. 63, slash at decimal 47. 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, numbers 0 through 9. -999, decimal 58 to 60. -1, equals sign at decimal 61. -999, decimal 62 to 64. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, letters A through N. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, letters O through Z. -99999, decimal 91 to 96. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, letters A through M. 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, letters N through Z. Dash 9999 decimal 123 to 126. 99999999999 decimal 127 to 139. Dash 99999999999 decimal 140 to 152. Dash 99999999999 decimal 153 to 165. Dash 99999999999 decimal 166 to 178. Dash 99999999999 decimal 179 to 191. Dash 99999999999 decimal 192 to 204. Dash 99999999999 decimal 205 to 217. Dash 99999999999 decimal 218 to 230. Dash 99999999999 decimal 231 to 243. Dash 99999999999 decimal 244 to 255. Private final static byte bat underscore encoding equals -9, indicates error in encoding. Private final static byte white underscore space underscore ENC equals -5, indicates white space in encoding. Private final static byte equals underscore sign underscore ENC equals -1, indicates equals sign in encoding. Defeats instantiation. Private base 64. Testing. Feel free, in fact I encourage you to throw out this entire main method when you actually deploy this code. Public static void main, string args. Try. Test encoding decoding byte arrays. Byte bytes1 equals, byte, 2, byte, 2, byte, 3, byte, 0, byte, 9, my zip code. Byte bytes2 equals, byte, 99, byte, 2, byte, 2, byte, 3, byte, 0, byte, 9. System.out.println, bytes 2, 2, 3, 0, 9 as BASE64, plus encode bytes, bytes1. System.out.println, bytes 2, 2, 3, 0, 9 W offset, plus encode bytes, bytes2, 1, bytes 2. Length 1. Bytes equals decode, encode bytes, bytes1. System.out.print, encode bytes, bytes1, plus decoded. 4, int I equals 0, I equals 0. Byte temp equals new byte ebytes.length plus 1. System.array copy, ebytes 0, temp 0 ebytes.length. Temp ebytes.length equals, byte, b. Ebytes equals temp. End while, terribly inefficient way to read data. B64 is dot close. String s equals new string, ebytes. javax.swing.j text area jada equals new javax.swing.j text area, s. javax.swing.j scroll pane jsp equals new javax.swing.j scroll pane, jada. jframe equals new javax.swing.jframe. jframe.setTitle, read from test.gif_out. jframe.getContentPane, .add, JSP. jframe.pack. jframe.setVisible, true. Write encoded bytes to file. FOS equals new java.io.file output stream, test.gif.b64_out. FOS.write, ebytes. Read GIF stored in BASE64 form. Fis equals new java.io.file input stream, test.gif.b64_out. b64is equals new base64.input stream, fis, decode. Byte ed bytes equals new byte 0. b equals -1. While, b equals b64 is dot read, equals 0. Byte temp equals new byte ed bytes dot length plus 1. System dot array copy, ed bytes 0, temp 0 ed bytes dot length. Temp ed bytes dot length equals, byte, b. Ed bytes equals temp. End while, terribly inefficient way to read data. b64 is dot close. Icon equals new javax.swing.image icon, ed bytes. JLabel equals new javax.swing.jlabel, read from test.gif.b64_out, icon 0. JFrame equals new javax.swing.jframe. JFrame.getContentPane.add, JLabel. JFrame.pack. JFrame.setVisible, true. End, test input stream. Test output stream. Read raw bytes. Java.io.file input stream fis equals new java.io.file input stream, test.gif_out. Byte bytes equals new byte 0. Int b equals -1. While, b equals fis.read, equals 0. Byte temp equals new byte bytes dot length plus 1. System.array copy, bytes 0, temp 0 bytes dot length. Temp bytes dot length equals, byte, b. bytes equals temp. End while, terribly inefficient way to read data. Fis.close. Write raw bytes to encoded file. Java.io.file output stream FOS equals new java.io.file output stream, test.gif.b64_out2. Base64.output stream b64os equals new base64.output stream, FOS, encode. b64os.write, bytes. b64os.close. Read raw bytes that are actually encoded, but we'll ignore that. Fis equals new java.io.file input stream, test.gif.b64_out2. Byte rebytes equals new byte 0. b equals -1. While, b equals fis.read, equals 0. Byte temp equals new byte rebytes dot length plus 1. System.array copy, rebytes 0, temp 0 rebytes dot length. Temp rebytes dot length equals, byte, b. Rebytes equals temp. End while, terribly inefficient way to read data. Fis.close. String s equals new string, rebytes. javax.swing.jTextArea jada equals new javax.swing.jTextArea, s. javax.swing.jscrollpane JSP equals new javax.swing.jscrollpane, jada. javax.swing.jframe jframe equals new javax.swing.jframe. jframe.setTitle, read from test.gif.b64_out2. jframe.getContentPane.add, JSP. jframe.pack. jframe.setVisible, true. Write encoded bytes to decoded raw file. FOS equals new java.io.file output stream, test.gif_out2. b64os equals new base64.output stream, FOS, decode. b64os.write, rebytes. b64os.close. javax.swing.image icon equals new javax.swing.image icon, test.gif_out2. javax.swing.jlabel jlabel equals new javax.swing.jlabel, read from test.gif_out2, icon 0. jframe equals new javax.swing.jframe. jframe.getContentPane.add, JLabel. jframe.pack. jframe.setVisible, true. End, test output stream. Test Wagner's files. java.io.file input stream fis equals new java.io.file input stream, d \temp \test encoding.txt. base64.input stream b64is equals new base64.input stream, fis, decode. java.io.file output stream fos equals new java.io.file output stream, d \temp \file.zip. int b. While, b equals b64 is .read, equals 0. fos.write, b. fos.close. b64 is .close. end test Wagner's file. end try. Catch, exception e.print stack trace. end main. encodingmethods. Encodes the first 3 bytes of array 3 bytes and returns a 4-byte array in BASE64 notation. At param 3 bytes the array to convert. At return 4-byte array in BASE64 notation. At since 1.3. Private static byte encode 3 to 4, byte 3 bytes. Return encode 3 to 4, 3 bytes, 3. End encode data bytes. Encodes up to the first 3 bytes of array 3 bytes and returns a 4-byte array in BASE64 notation. The actual number of significant bytes in your array is given by numsig bytes. The array 3 bytes needs only be as big as numsig bytes. At param 3 bytes the array to convert. At param numsig bytes the number of significant bytes in your array. At return 4-byte array in BASE64 notation. At since 1.3. Private static byte encode 3 to 4, byte 3 bytes, int numsig bytes. Byte dest equals new byte 4. Encode 3 to 4, 3 bytes, 0, numsig bytes, dest, 0. Return dest. Encodes up to 3 bytes of the array source and writes the resulting 4 BASE64 bytes to destination. The source and destination arrays can be manipulated anywhere along their length by specifying src offset and dest offset. This method does not check to make sure your arrays are large enough to accommodate src offset plus 3-4. The source array or dest offset plus 4-4. The destination array. The actual number of significant bytes in your array is given by numsig bytes. At param source the array to convert. At param src offset the index where conversion begins. At param numsig bytes the number of significant bytes in your array. At param destination the array to hold the conversion. At param dest offset the index where output will be put. At return the destination array. At since 1.3. Private static byte encode 3 to 4. Byte source, int src offset, int numsig bytes. Byte destination, int dest offset. 1 2 3 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 1 bit position. Dash 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 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 array position from 3 bytes. Dash 6-bit groups to index alphabet. 18 12 6 0 right shift necessary. 0x3f 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 additional n. Create buffer with 0 padding if there are only 1 or 2 significant bytes passed in the array. We have to shift left 24 in order to flush out the ones that appear when Java treats a value as negative that is cast from a byte to an int. Int in buff equals numsig bytes 0. Source src offset 8, 0. Numsig bytes 1. Source src offset plus 116, 0. Numsig bytes 2. Source src offset plus 224, 0. Switch, numsig bytes. Case 3. Destination dest offset equals alphabet, in buff 18. Destination dest offset plus 1 equals alphabet, in buff 12, and 0x3f. Destination dest offset plus 2 equals alphabet, in buff 6, and 0x3f. Destination dest offset plus 3 equals alphabet, in buff, and 0x3f. Return destination. Case 2. Destination dest offset equals alphabet, in buff 18. Destination dest offset plus 1 equals alphabet, in buff 12, and 0x3f. Destination dest offset plus 2 equals alphabet, in buff 6, and 0x3f. Destination dest offset plus 3 equals underscore sign. Return destination. Case 1. Destination dest offset equals alphabet, in buff 18. Destination dest offset plus 1 equals alphabet, in buff 12, and 0x3f. Destination dest offset plus 2 equals underscore sign. Destination dest offset plus 3 equals underscore sign. Return destination. Default. Return destination. End switch. End encode 3 to 4. Serializes an object and returns the base 64 encoded version of that serialized object. If the object cannot be serialized or there is another error, the method will return null. At param serializable object the object to encode. At return the base 64 encoded object. At since 1.4. Public static string encode object, java.io.serializable object. Return encode object, serializable object, true. End encode object. Serializes an object and returns the base 64 encoded version of that serialized object. If the object cannot be serialized or there is another error, the method will return null. At param serializable object the object to encode. At param break lines at 80 characters or less. At return the base 64 encoded object. At since 1.4. Public static string encode object, java.io.serializable object, boolean break lines. java.io.byteArray output stream BOANCLOUD equals null. java.io.output stream B64OS equals null. java.io.object output stream OS equals null. Try. BOANCLOUD equals new java.io.byteArray output stream. B64OS equals new base64.output stream, BOANCLOUD, base64.encode, break lines. OS equals new java.io.object output stream, B64OS. OS.write object, serializable object. End try. Catch, java.io.io exception e.print stack trace. Return null. End catch. Finally. Try OS.close, catch, exception Try B64OS.close, catch, exception Try BOANCLOUD.close, catch, exception And finally. Return new string, BOANCLOUD.toByteArray. End encode. Encodes a byte array into BASE64 notation. Equivalent to calling. Encode bytes, source, 0, source.length, at param source the data to convert. At since 1.4. Public static string encode bytes, byte source. Return encode bytes, source, true. End encode bytes. Encodes a byte array into BASE64 notation. Equivalent to calling. Encode bytes, source, 0, source.length, at param source the data to convert. At param break lines at 80 characters or less. At since 1.4. Public static string encode bytes, byte source, boolean break lines. Return encode bytes, source, 0, source.length, break lines. End encode bytes. Encodes a byte array into BASE64 notation. At param source the data to convert. At param off offset in array where conversion should begin. At param len length of data to convert. At since 1.4. Public static string encode bytes, byte source, int off, int len. Return encode bytes, source, off, len, true. End encode bytes. Encodes a byte array into BASE64 notation. At param source the data to convert. At param off offset in array where conversion should begin. At param len length of data to convert. At param break lines at 80 characters or less. At since 1.4. Public static string encode bytes, byte source, int off, int len, boolean break lines. Int len43 equals len43. Byte out buff equals new byte, len43, main 4:3. Plus, len %3, 0, 4, 0, account for padding. Plus, break lines. len43 max underscore line underscore length, 0, new lines. Int d equals 0. Int e equals 0. Int len2 equals len, 2. Int line length equals 0. 4, d12. Decode a bet source src offset plus 218. Int out buff equals, decode a bet source src offset and 0xff, 8. Return 2. Example, dkle. Else. Try. 2 ways to do the same thing. Don't know which way I like best. Int out buff equals, decode a bet source src offset 6. Decode a bet source src offset plus 112. Decode a bet source src offset plus 218. Decode a bet source src offset plus 324. Int out buff equals, decode a bet source src offset and 0xff, 3. Out buff bsn plus equals decode 4 to 3, b4, 0, out buff bsn. b4 posn equals 0. If that was the equals sign, break out of for loop. If, sbi crop equals underscore sign. Break. And if, quartet built. And if, equals sign or better. And if, white space equals sign or better. Else. System.err.println, bad BASE64 input character at plus I plus source I plus, decimal. Return null. And else. Each input character. Byte out equals new byte out buff bsn. System.array copy, out buff, 0, out, 0, out buff bsn. Return out. End decode. INNERCLASSINPUTSTREAM. A base 64 number input stream will read data from another java.io.input stream, given in the constructor. An encode decode ta from BASE64 notation on the fly. At C BASE64. At C java.io.filter input stream. At since 1.3. Public static class input stream extends java.io.filter input stream. Private boolean encode, encoding or decoding. Private int position, current position in the buffer. Private byte buffer, small buffer holding converted data. Private int buffer length, length of buffer, 3 or 4. Private int numzig bytes, number of meaningful bytes in the buffer. Private int line length. Private boolean break lines at less than 80 characters. Constructs a base 64 number input stream in decode mode. At param in the java.io.input stream from which to read data. At since 1.3. Public input stream, java.io.input stream in. This, in, base 64.decode. End constructor. Constructs a base 64 number input stream in either encode or decode mode. At param in the java.io.input stream from which to read data. At param encode conversion direction. At C base 64 number encode. At C base 64 number decode. At since 1.3. Public input stream, java.io.input stream in, boolean encode. This, in, encode, true. End constructor. Constructs a base 64 number input stream in either encode or decode mode. At param in the java.io.input stream from which to read data. At param encode conversion direction. At param break lines at less than 80 characters. At C base 64 number encode. At C base 64 number decode. At since 1.3. Public input stream, java.io.input stream in, boolean encode, boolean break lines. Super, in. This dot break lines equals break lines. This dot encode equals encode. This dot buffer length equals encode. 4, 3. This dot buffer equals new byte buffer length. This dot position equals -1. This dot line length equals 0. End constructor. Reads enough of the input stream to convert ta from BASE64 and returns the next byte. At return next byte. At since 1.3. Public int read, throws java.io.io exception. Do we need to get data? If, position 0. Encode 3 to 4, B3, 0, numbinary bytes, buffer, 0. Position equals 0. Numzig bytes equals 4. And if, got data. Else. Return -1. And else. And if, encoding. Else decoding. Else. Byte B4 equals new byte 4. Int I equals 0. 4, I equals 0, I equals 0 and decode bet B and 0x7f equals numzig bytes. Return -1. If, encode end break lines and line length equals max underscore line underscore length. Line length equals 0. Return \n. And if. Else. Line length ++, this isn't important when decoding. But throwing an extra if seems just as wasteful. Int b equals buffer position ++. If, position equals buffer length. Position equals -1. Return b and 0xff, this is how you cast a byte that's intended to be unsigned. And else. And if, position equals 0. Else error. Else. When JDK 1.4 is more accepted, use an assertion here. Throw new java.io.io exception, error in BASE64 code reading stream. And else. End read. Calls number read repeatedly until the end of stream is reached or len bytes are read. Returns number of bytes read into array or -1 if end of stream is encountered. At param dest array to hold values. At param off offset for array. At param len max number of bytes to read into array. At return bytes read into array or -1 if end of stream is encountered. At since 1.3. Public int read, byte dest, int off, int len, throws java.io.io exception. Int I. Int b. 4, I equals 0, I equals buffer length, enough to encode. Out.write, base 64.encode 3 to 4, buffer, buffer length. Line length plus equals 4. If, break lines and end line length equals max underscore line underscore length. Out.write, new underscore line. Line length equals 0. And if, end of line. Position equals 0. And if, enough to output. And if, encoding. Else, decoding. Else. Meaningful BASE64 character. If, decode bet the byte and 0x7f white underscore space underscore enc. Buffer position ++ equals, byte, the byte. If, position equals buffer length, enough to output. Out.write, base 64.decode 4 to 3, buffer. Position equals 0. And if, enough to output. And if, meaningful BASE64 character. Else if, decode bet the byte and 0x7f, equals white underscore space underscore enc. Throw new java.io.io exception, invalid character in BASE64 data. And else, not white space either. And else, decoding. And write. Calls at link number write repeatedly until len bytes are written. At param the bytes array from which to read bytes. At param off offset for array. At param len max number of bytes to read into array. At since 1.3. Public void write, byte the bytes, int off, int len, throws java.io exception. 4. Int I equals 0, I 0. If, encode. Out.write, base 64. Encode 3 to 4, buffer, position. Position equals 0. End if, encoding. Else. Throw new java.io exception, BASE64 input not properly padded. End else, decoding. End if, buffer partially full. Out.flush. End flush. Flushes and closes, I think, in the superclass, the stream. At since 1.3. Public void close, throws java.io exception. Super.close. This.flush. Out.close. Buffer equals null. Out equals null. End close. End inner class output stream. End class BASE64. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension.history. Import java.awt.border layout. Import java.awt.frame. Import java.awt.gridbag constraints. Import java.awt.gridbag layout. Import java.awt.rectangle. Import java.awt.robot. Import java.awt.event.action event. Import java.awt.event.action listener. Import java.awt.event.window event. Import java.awt.image.buffered image. Import java.io.file. Import java.net.url. Import java.utilityvector. Import javax.image.io.image.io. Import javax.swing.jbutton. Import javax.swing.jfilecursor. Import javax.swing.jlabel. Import javax.swing.jpanel. Import javax.swing.filechooser.filefilter. Import org.paros proxy.paros.constant. Import org.paros proxy.paros.control.control. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.abstract dialog. Import java.awt.card layout. Public class browser dialog extends abstract dialog. Private static final string title equals view in browser. Private jpanel jcontent pane equals null. Private jpanel jpanel bottom equals null. Private jlabel equals null. Private jbutton btn capture equals null. Private jbutton btn stop equals null. Private jbutton btn close equals null. Private string title equals. Private vector URLs equals new vector. Private jpanel equals null. Private embedded browser equals null. This is the default constructor. Public browser dialog. Super. Initialize. Public browser dialog, frame, Boolean modal. Super, frame, modal. Initialize. This method initializes this. At return void. Private void initialize. This dot set content pane, get jcontent pane. This dot set default closey operation, do _nothing _on _close. This dot set title. This dot add window listener, new java.awt.event.window adapter. Public void window closing, window event win evt. Stop. Browser dialog. This dot set visible, false. Pack. This dot set size, 640,480. This method initializes jcontent pane. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jcontent pane. If jContentPane equals null. jContentPane equals new jPanel. jContentPane.setLayout, new border layout. jContentPane.add, get jPanel, java.awt.borderlayout.center. jContentPane.add, get jPanel bottom, java.awt.borderlayout.south. Return jContentPane. This method initializes jPanel bottom. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jPanel get jPanel bottom. If jPanel bottom equals null. Gridbag constraints 2 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 2.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 5,3,5,5. Gridbag constraints 2.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 2.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.east. Gridbag constraints 2.gridx equals 2. Gridbag constraints 3 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 3.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 5,3,5,2. Gridbag constraints 3.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 3.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.west. Gridbag constraints 3.gridx equals 3. Gridbag constraints 1 equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints 1.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 5,3,5,2. Gridbag constraints 1.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints 1.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.west. Gridbag constraints 1.gridx equals 1. Gridbag constraints equals new gridbag constraints. Gridbag constraints.insets equals new java.awt.insets, 10,5,10,2. Gridbag constraints.grid equals 0. Gridbag constraints.fill equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.horizontal. Gridbag constraints.anchor equals java.awt.gridbag constraints.west. Gridbag constraints.weighty equals 1.0d. Gridbag constraints.weights equals 1.0d. Gridbag constraints.gridx equals 0. JLabel equals new JLabel. JLabel.set text. JLabel.set component orientation, java.awt.component orientation.unknown. jPanel bottom equals new jPanel. jPanel bottom.set layout, new gridbag layout. jPanel bottom.add, JLabel, gridbag constraints. jPanel bottom.add, get pn capture, gridbag constraints 1. jPanel bottom.add, get pn stop, gridbag constraints 2. jPanel bottom.add, get pn close, gridbag constraints 3. Return jPanel bottom. This method initializes JButton. At return javax.swing.jButton. Private JButton get pn capture. If btn capture equals null. btn capture equals new JButton. btn capture.set text, capture. btn capture.horizontal alignment, javax.swing constants.center. btn capture.horizontal text position, javax.swing constants.trailing. btn capture.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 73,28. btn capture.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. Capture. Return btn capture. Private JButton get pn stop. If btn stop equals null. btn stop equals new JButton. btn stop.set text, stop. btn stop.horizontal alignment, javax.swing constants.center. btn stop.horizontal text position, javax.swing constants.trailing. btn stop.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 73,28. btn stop.add action listener, new java.awt.event.action listener. Public void action performed, java.awt.event.action event e. int I equals 0. 4, I equals 0, I urls.size, I++. System.out.println, urls.get, I. urls.clear. Stop. Return btn stop. Private void stop. Get empted browser, .stop. Control.get singleton, .get proxy, .seasonable kkept processing, false. Private void capture. Try. This .seedlewason top, true. Buffered image screen capture equals new robot, .create screen capture. New rectangle, this .get x, this .get y. This .get width, this .get height, this .jpanel bottom .get height. Save as JPEG. JFile cursor chooser equals new JFile cursor. Chooser.add choosable fila filter, new file filter. Public boolean accept, file. String file name equals file.get name. Return file name ends with .png. Public string get description. Return.png. Chooser.show save dialog, this. File equals chooser.get selected file. If file equals null. Image io.write, screen capture, png, file. Catch, exception e. e.print stack trace. This .seedlewason top, false. This method initializes JButton1. At return javax.swing.jButton. Private JButton get and close. If btn close equals null. btn close equals new JButton. btn close.set text, close. btn close.set visible, false. btn close.add action listener, new action listener, close this window. Public void action performed, action event arg0. Stop. Return btn close. Public void add URL, URL arg. urls.add, arg. This method initializes jpanel. At return javax.swing.jpanel. Private jpanel get jpanel. If jpanel equals null. jpanel equals new jpanel. jpanel.set layout, new card layout. jpanel.set preferred size, new java.awt.dimension, 400,300. jpanel.add, get empted browser, get name. Return jpanel. This method initializes embedded browser. At return org.paros proxy.paros.extension.history.embedded browser. Embedded browser get empted browser. If embedded browser equals null. Embedded browser equals new embedded browser. Embedded browser.set name, embedded browser. Return embedded browser. Void ctrl string URL. Set title, title and URL. Package org.paros proxy.paros.network. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class byte vector. Private static final int initial underscore size equals 4096. Private byte buff equals null. Private int bufflen equals 0. Private boolean changed equals true. Public byte vector. Buff equals new byte initial underscore size. Public byte vector, int capacity. Buff equals new byte capacity. Void ensure capacity, int minimum capacity. If buff.length, bufflen equals minimum capacity. Enough buff, no expand needed. return. Expand needed. Int expand length equals buff.length 2. If expand length, bufflen minimum capacity. Expand length equals bufflen plus minimum capacity. Byte new buff equals new byte expand length. System.array copy, buff, 0, new buff, 0, bufflen. Buff equals new buff. Public synchronized void append, byte b, int offset, int length. Ensure capacity, length. System.array copy, b, offset, buff, bufflen, length. Bufflen plus equals length. Changed equals true. Public void append, byte b, int length. Append, b, 0, length. Public void append, byte b. Append, b, 0, b dot length. Return the current byte array containing the bytes. At return. Public byte get bytes. If changed. Return buff. Byte new buff equals new byte bufflen. System.array copy, buff, 0, new buff, 0, bufflen. Buff equals new buff. Return buff. Public int length. Return bufflen. Public void set length, int length. If length equals bufflen. Bufflen equals length. Return. Else. Byte new buff equals new byte length. System.array copy, buff, 0, new buff, 0, bufflen. Buff equals new buff. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.proxy. Import org.parosproxy.paros.model.history reference. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. Public class cache processing item. Public cache processing item, history reference ref, http message. Reference equals ref. Message equals message. History reference equals null. http message equals null. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.scanner 00000 information gathering 10,000 to 19,999 default files 20,000 to 29,999 30,000 to 39,999. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class category. Public static final int info underscore gather equals 0. Public static final int browser equals 1. Public static final int server equals 2. Public static final int miscellaneous equals 3. Public static final int injection equals 4. Private static string names equals information gathering. Client browser. Server security. Miscellaneous. Injection. Public static string get name, int category. String result equals undefined. If category names dot length. Result equals names category. Return result. Public static int get category, string name. 4. Int I equals 0, I names dot length, I plus plus. If names I dot equals signer case, name. Return I. Return 0. Public static string getl names. Return names. Public static int length. Return names dot length. Package org.parosproxy.paros.extension.scanner. Import java.utility list. Import java.utility vector. Import javax.swing.table.default table model. Import org.parosproxy.paros.core.scanner.plugin. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class category table model extends default table model. Private static final string column names equals test name, enabled. Private vector list test category equals new vector. Public category table model. Public void settable, int category, list all test. List test category dot clear. 4. Int I equals 0, I all test dot size, I plus plus. Plugin test equals, plugin, all test dot get, I. If, test dot get category, equals category. List test category dot add, test. Firetable data changed. Public class get column class, int C. If, C equals 1. Return boolean dot class. Return string dot class. Public string get column name, int col. Return column name col. Public boolean is editable, int row index, int column index. If, column index equals 1. Return true. Return false. Public void set value at, object value, int row, int col. Plugin test equals, plugin, list test category dot get, row. Object result equals null. Switch, col. Case 0, break. Case 1, test dot set enabled, boolean, value, dot boolean value. Break. Firetable cell updated, row, col. Public int get column count. Return 2. Non-javadoc. At cjavax.swing.table table model getRow count. Public int getRow count. Return getIst list, dot size. Non-javadoc. At cjavax.swing.table table model get value at, int. Public object get value at, int row, int col. Plugin test equals, plugin, list test category dot get, row. Object result equals null. Switch, col. Case 0, result equals test dot get name. Break. Case 1, result equals new boolean, test dot is enabled. Break. Default, result equals. Return result. Private list getIst list. If, list test category equals null. List test category equals new vector. Return list test category. Package org.parosproxy.paros.core.spider. Import java.io.unsupported encoding exception. Import java.net.url encoder. Import java.utility vector. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri. Import org.apache.commons.client.uri exception. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http body. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http header. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http malformed header exception. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http message. Import org.parosproxy.paros.network.http request header. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class collector. Private spider thread parent equals null. Collector, spider thread parent. This dot parent equals parent. Build URI given a base HTML. Keep absolute if it is. At param HTML. At param link. At return. At throws URI exception. At throws HTTP malformed header exception. Private HTTP message build message, URI base, string link, throws URI exception, HTTP malformed header exception. URI equals null. URI equals new URI, base, link, true. HTTP message equals new HTTP message, new HTTP request header, HTTP request header dot get, URI, HTTP header dot HTTP 11. Return message. Private boolean is duplicateinsamert mel, vector list, HTTP message. If, list dot contains, message. Return true. Else. List dot add, message. Return false. Void collect, HTML, int current depth. Vector previous found list equals new vector. URI equals null. As equals HTML.getAs. Frames equals HTML.getFrames. imgs equals HTML.getImgs. Hyperlink links equals HTML.getHyperlinks. Metas equals HTML.getMetas. HTTP message equals null. Process anchor. 4. Int I equals 0, I as dot length, I plus plus. String href equals as I dot get href, dot replace all, and amp, and. Try. Message equals build message, HTML dot get URI, href. If, is duplicateinsamert mel, previous found list, message. Parent dot found URI, message, HTML dot get URI, dot toString, current depth. Catch, exception E. System.out.println, A, invalid URI plus href. E.print stack trace. Process frame. 4, int I equals 0, I frames.length, I plus plus. String src equals frames I dot get src. Try. Message equals build message, HTML dot get URI, src. If, is duplicateinsamert mel, previous found list, message. Parent dot found URI, message, HTML dot get URI, dot toString, current depth. Catch, exception E. System.out.println, frame, invalid URI plus src. E.print stack trace. Process imgs. Suppressed extracting URLs from image. 4, int I equals 0, imgs.length, I plus plus. String src equals imgs I dot get src. Try. Message equals build message, HTML dot get URI, src. Parent dot found URI, message, HTML dot get URI, dot toString, current depth. Catch, exception E. System.out.println, img, invalid URI plus src. E.print stack trace. Process forms. Vector form query list equals get forms query, HTML. 4, int I equals 0, I form query list dot size, I plus plus. Message equals, HTTP message, form query list dot get, I. Try. Parent dot found URI, message, HTML dot get URI, dot toString, current depth. Catch, URI exception E. E.print stack trace. Process general hyperlinks, e.g. in JavaScript elsewhere. 4, int I equals 0, I links.length, I plus plus. String link equals links I dot get link, dot replace all, and amp, and. Try. Message equals build message, HTML dot get URI, link. If, is duplicateinsamert mel, previous found list, message. Parent dot found URI, message, HTML dot get URI, dot toString, current depth. Catch, exception E. E.print stack trace. Process metas. 4, int I equals 0, I metas.length, I plus plus. String URL equals metas I dot get URL. Try. Message equals build message, HTML dot get URI, URL. If, is duplicateinsamert previous found list, message. Parent.found URI, message, html.get URI, .toString, current depth. Catch, exception e. System.out.println, frame, invalid URI plus src. E.print stack trace. Public vector get forms query, HTML. Vector QRY list equals new vector. Forms equals HTML.get forms. 4. Int I equals 0, I forms.length, I++. Form equals forms I. Vector 1 form equals get form query, form, HTML.get URI. QRY list.add all, 1 form. Return QRY list. Private vector get form query, form, URI base URI. Vector crystallist equals new vector. Vector QRY list equals new vector. String query string equals. HTTP request header REQ header equals null. HTTP body REQ body equals null. If form.get action equals null. Return QRY list. Int combination count equals 1. 4. Int I equals 0, I form.get select, .length, I++. Restrict max number of options to 2. Combination count equals, form.get select, I.get option, .length 2. 2. Form.get select, I.get option, .length. If combination count 512. Return QRY list. Try. Build all query string using input tags. 4. Int I equals 0, I form.get input, .length, I++. Input equals form.get input, I. If input.get name equals null input.get name, .length, equals 0. Continue. If input.get type equals null. If input.get type =signarcase, input.submit. Submit field should also be sent for better crawling. Input.get type =signarcase, input.password. Input.get type =signarcase, input.checkbox. Input.get type =signarcase, input.reset. Continue. String value equals input.get value. If input.get type =signarcase, input.text, and end value equals. Arbitrary fill A1 for displayable fields. Value equals 1. Query string equals build post query string, input.get name, value. Build all query string using text area tags. 4. Int I equals 0, I form.get text area, .length, I++. Text area equals form.get text area, I. If text area.get name equals null text area.get name, .length, equals 0. Continue. String value equals text area.get value. Query string equals build post query string, text area.get name, value. Build all query string using select and option tags. Crystallist.add element, query string. 4. Int I equals 0, I form.get select, .length, I++. Select equals form.get select, I. If select.get name equals null select.get name, .length, equals 0. Continue. Crystallist equals add select field, crystallist, select. 4. Int I equals 0, I crystallist.size, I++. HTTP message equals null. URI equals null. String QRYSTR equals, string, crystallist.element at, I. If form.get method, =signarcase, form.get. String action equals, form.get action, index of, question, 0. Form.get action, plus question and qrystr, form.getAction, plus ampersand and qrystr. URI equals new URI, base URI, action, true. REQ header equals new HTTP request header, form.getMethod, .trim, .toUppercase, URI, HTTP header.http 11. Message equals new HTTP message, REQ header. Else if, form.getMethod, .equals_signer_recase, form.post. If, parent.getParent, .getSpiderParam, .isPost form. Continue. URI equals new URI, base URI, form.getAction, true. REQ header equals new HTTP request header, form.getMethod, .trim, .toUppercase, URI, HTTP header.http 11. REQ body equals new HTTP body, qrystr. REQ header.setContentLength, REQ body.length. Message equals new HTTP message, REQ header, REQ body. Else. Continue. Message get request header, .setContentLength, message get request body, .length. QRYList.add, message. Catch, exception E. Return QRYList. Private vector add select field, vector QRY, select. Vector nucrylist equals new vector. String query string equals null. If, select.getOption, equals null. Return nucrylist. For, int I equals 0, I select.getOption, .length and I2, I++. Only select at most 2 option to avoid too much combinations. If second option exist, don't use first option because first option is usually not valid option. If, I equals 0 and select.getOption, .length 1. Continue. String value equals select.getOption, I.getValue. Try. If, qry. Is empty. Query string equals build post query string, select.getName, value. Nucrylist.add element, query string. Else. For, int j equals 0, jqry.size, j++. Query string equals, string, qry.element at, j. Query string equals build post query string, select.getName, value. Nucrylist.add element, query string. Catch, exception E. Return nucrylist. Private static final string equals. Private static final string ampersand equals and. Private static final string question equals. Private string build post query string old query, string new field, string new value. String buffer result equals new string buffer, old query. If, old query.length, 0. Result.append, ampersand. Result.append, new field. Result.append, equal. Try. Result.append, URL encoder.encode, new value, UTF-8. Catch, unsupported encoding exception E. Return result.toString. Package org.paros proxy.paros. Import java.utility hash table. Import java.utility vector. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.command line argument. Import org.paros proxy.paros.network.http sender. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class command line. Static final string session equals session. Static final string new underscore session equals news Zion. Static final string help equals help. Static final string help2 equals h. Static final string no underscore user underscore agent equals user agent. Static final string sp equals sp. Private boolean GUI equals true. Private string args equals null. Private hash table keywords equals new hash table. Private vector command list equals null. Public command line, string args, throws exception. This.args equals args. Parse first, this.args. Private boolean check pair, string args, string param name, int I, throws exception. String key equals args I. String value equals null. If key equals null, return false. If key dot equals signer case, param name. Value equals args I plus 1. If value equals null, throw new exception. Keywords dot put, param name, value. Args I equals null. Args I plus 1 equals null. Return true. Return false. Private boolean check switch, string args, string param name, int I, throws exception. String key equals args I. If key equals null, return false. If key dot equals signer case, param name. Keywords dot put, param name. Args I equals null. Return true. Return false. Private void parse first, string args, throws exception. 4. Int I equals 0, I args dot length, I plus plus. If parse switches, args, I, continue. If parse keywords, args, I, continue. 4. Int I equals 0, I args dot length, I plus plus. If args I, equals null. Throw new exception. Public void parse, vector command list, throws exception. This dot command list equals command list. Command line argument last arg equals null. Boolean found equals false. Int remaining value count equals 0. 4. Int I equals 0, I args dot length, I plus plus. If args I equals null, continue. Found equals false. 4. Int j equals 0, j command list dot size, and, found, j plus plus. Command line argument extrg equals, command line argument, command list dot get, j. 4. Int k equals 0, k extrg dot length and, found, k plus plus. If args I dot compare toinure case, extrg k dot get name, equals 0. Check if previous keyword satisfied its required no of parameters. If remaining value count 0. Throw new exception, missing parameters for keyword plus last arg dot get name, plus dot. Process this keyword. Last arg equals extrg k. Last arg dot set enabled, true. Found equals true. Args I equals null. Remaining value count equals last arg dot get num off arguments. Check if current string is a keyword preceded by dash. If args I equals null and args I dot starts with dash. Continue. Check if there is no more expected param value. If last arg equals null and remaining value count equals 0. Continue. Check if consume remaining for last matched keywords. If found and last arg equals null. If last arg dot get pattern equals null last arg dot get pattern dot matcher args I dot find. Last arg dot get arguments dot add args I. If remaining value count 0. Remaining value count args I equals null. Else throw new exception, last arg dot get error message. Check if the last keyword satisfied its no of parameters. If last arg equals null and remaining value count 0. Throw new exception, missing parameters for keyword plus last arg dot get name, plus dot. Check if there is some unknown keywords. 4. Int I equals 0, I args dot length, I plus plus. If args I equals null. Throw new exception, unknown options, plus args I. Private Boolean parse switches, string args, int I, throws exception. Boolean result equals false. If, check switch, args, no underscore user underscore agent, I. http sender.c2 agent. Constant.set I a catcher. Result equals true. Else if, check switch, args, sp, I. Constant.set sp, true. Result equals true. Else if, check switch, args, help, I. Result equals true. Set GUI, false. Else if, check switch, args, help2, I. Result equals true. Set GUI, false. Return result. Private Boolean parse keywords, string args, int I, throws exception. Boolean result equals false. If, check pair, args, new underscore session, I. Set GUI, false. Result equals true. Else if, check pair, args, session, I. Set GUI, false. Result equals true. Return result. At return returns the no GUI. Public Boolean is GUI. Return GUI. At param no GUI the no GUI to set. Public void set GUI, Boolean GUI. This .GUI equals GUI. Public string get argument, string keyword. Return, string, keywords.get, keyword. Static string getHelp general. String crlf equals \r\n. String help equals GUI usage plus crlf plus \t java-paros.jar plus crlf plus \t java-jar-paros.jar plus crlf plus see java-jar-paros.jar h help for detail \r\n\n. Return help. Public string get help. String buffer sb equals new string buffer, getHelp general. sb append, command line usage \r\n. sb append, java-jar-paros.jar h help news zion session underscore file underscore path options \r\n. sb append, options \r\n\r\n. 4, int I equals 0, I command list.size, I++. Command line argument extarg equals, command line argument, command list.get, I. 4, int j equals 0, j extarg.length, j++. sb append, extarg.getHelp message, plus \r\n. Return sb tossed ring. Public Boolean is enabled, string keyword. Object obj equals keywords.get, keyword. If, obj, equals null and obj instancio of string. Return true. Return false. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension. Import java.utility vector. Import java.utility regex.pattern. To change the template for this generated type comment go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class command line argument. Private string name equals. Private int numOf arguments equals 0. Private vector arg equals new vector. Private Boolean enabled equals false. Private pattern equals null. Private string error message equals. Private string help message equals. At return returns the error message. Public string get error message. Return error message. At return returns the pattern. Public pattern get pattern. Return pattern. Public command line argument, string name, int numOf arguments. This dot name equals name. This dot numOf arguments equals numOf arguments. Public command line argument, string name, int numOf arguments, string pattern, string error message, string help message. This, name, numOf arguments. If, pattern, equals null end pattern dot length, 0. This dot pattern equals pattern dot compile, pattern. If, error message, equals null. This dot error message equals error message. If, help message, equals null. This dot help message equals help message. Public string get name. Return name. Public int get numOf arguments. Return numOf arguments. Public vector get arguments. Return arg. Check if this command line is enabled by the caller. At return if this public boolean is enabled. Return enabled. Enable this command line parameter. At param enabled. Public void set enabled, boolean enabled. This dot enabled equals enabled. At return returns the help message. Public string get help message. Return help message. Package org.paros proxy.paros.extension. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public Interface Command Line Listener. Execute the command line using the argument provided. Public void execute, command line argument args. Foundation, Inc., 59 Temple Place Suite 330, Boston, Massachusetts 02111-1307 USA. Package org.paros proxy.paros.network. Import java.utility vector. Import java.utility regex.pattern. Import org.apache.commons.client.http state. Import org.paros proxy.paros.common.abstract param. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class connection param extends abstract param. Private static final string connection equals connection. Private static final string proxy underscore chain underscore name equals connection.proxy chain.host name. Private static final string proxy underscore chain underscore port equals connection.proxy chain.port. Private static final string proxy underscore chain underscore skip underscore name equals connection.proxy chain.skip name. Private static final string proxy underscore chain underscore realm equals connection.proxy chain.realm. Private static final string proxy underscore chain underscore user underscore name equals connection.proxy chain.username. Private static final string proxy underscore chain underscore password equals connection.proxy chain.password. Private string proxy name equals. Private int proxy port equals 8080. Private string proxy skip name equals. Private string proxy realm equals. Private string proxy username equals. Private string proxy password equals. Private HTTP state equals null. Private boolean state enabled equals false. Private vector list auth equals new vector. Private pattern skip equals null. At return returns the state enabled. Public boolean state enabled. Return state enabled. At param state enabled the state enabled to set. Public voids state enabled, boolean state enabled. This dot state enabled equals state enabled. If this dot state enabled. HTTP state equals new HTTP state. Else HTTP state equals null. Public connection param. Protected void parse. Set proxy name, get config, dot get string, proxy underscore chain underscore name. Try. Set proxy port, get config, dot get int, proxy underscore chain underscore port, 8080. Catch, exception E. Set proxicane skip name, get config, get string, proxy underscore chain underscore skip underscore name. Set proxicane realm, get config, get string, proxy underscore chain underscore realm. Set proxicane username, get config, get string, proxy underscore chain underscore user underscore name. Set proxicane password, get config, get string, proxy underscore chain underscore password. Parse authentication. Public string get proxicane name. Return proxicane name. Public void set proxicane name, string proxicane name. This proxicane name equals proxicane name.trim. Get config, set property, proxy underscore chain underscore name, this proxicane name. Public int get proxicane port. Return proxicane port. Public void set proxicane port, int proxicane port. This proxicane port equals proxicane port. Get config, set property, proxy underscore chain underscore port, integer toString, this proxicane port. Public string get proxicane skip name. Return proxicane skip name. Public void set proxicane skip name, string proxicane skip name. This proxicane skip name equals proxicane skip name.trim. Get config, set property, proxy underscore chain underscore skip underscore name, this proxicane skip name. Parse proxicane skip, this proxicane skip name. Public string get proxicane realm. Return proxicane realm. Public void set proxicane realm, string proxicane realm. This proxicane realm equals proxicane realm.trim. Get config, set property, proxy underscore chain underscore realm, this proxicane realm. Public string get proxicane username. Return proxicane username. Public void set proxicane username, string proxicane username. This proxicane username equals proxicane username.trim. Get config, set property, proxy underscore chain underscore user underscore name, this proxicane username. Public string get proxicane password. Return proxicane password.trim. Public void set proxicane password, string proxicane password. This proxicane password equals proxicane password. Get config, set property, proxy underscore chain underscore password, this proxicane password. Check if via proxy chain. At return true equals use proxy chain. Private boolean ISIS proxicane. If, get proxicane name, equals. Return false. Else. Return true. Check if the given host name is in the proxy chain skip list. At param host name to be checked. Private boolean is skip proxicane, string host name. If, pattern skip equals null host name equals null. Return false. Return pattern skip.matcher, host name, find. Check if given host name need to send using proxy. At param host name to be checked. At return true equals need to send via proxy. Public boolean ISIS proxy, string host name. If, ISIS proxicane, is skip proxicane, host name. Return false. Else. Return true. Parse the proxy chain skip text string and build the regex pattern. Private void parse proxicane skip, string skip name. Pattern skip equals null. If, skip name equals null skip name equals. Return. Skip name equals skip name replace all, //dot, //// Skip name equals skip name replace all, /// dot. Replace all, plus $, plus. Skip name equals, plus skip name replace all, plus $. Pattern skip equals pattern compile, skip name, pattern case underscore insensitive. At return returns the list auth. Public vector get list auth. Return list auth. At param list auth the list auth to set. Public void set list auth, vector list auth. This dot list auth equals list auth. Host authentication auth equals null. 4. Int I equals 0, I, list auth dot size, 100, list auth dot size, 100, I++. Clear property doesn't work. So set all host name to blank as a workaround. Get config, dot clear property, get auth, I, auth underscore host underscore name. Get config, dot clear property, get auth, I, auth underscore port. Get config, dot clear property, get auth, I, auth underscore user underscore name. Get config, dot clear property, get auth, I, auth underscore password. Get config, dot clear property, get auth, I, auth underscore realm. Get config, dot clear property, auth plus dot a plus I. 4. Int I equals 0, I list auth dot size, I++. Auth equals, host authentication, list auth dot get, I. Get config, dot set property, get auth, I, auth underscore host underscore name, auth dot get host name. Get config, dot set property, get auth, I, auth underscore port, integer dot tost ring, auth dot get port. Get config, dot set property, get auth, I, auth underscore user underscore name, auth dot get username. Get config, dot set property, get auth, I, auth underscore password, auth dot get password. Get config, dot set property, get auth, I, auth underscore realm, auth dot get realm. Private static final string auth equals connection dot auth. Private static final string auth underscore host underscore name equals host name. Private static final string auth underscore port equals port. Private static final string auth underscore user underscore name equals username. Private static final string auth underscore password equals password. Private static final string auth underscore realm equals realm. Private string get auth, int I, string name. Return auth plus dot a plus I plus dot. Plus name. Private void parse authentication. List auth dot clear. String host equals 4, int I equals 0, host, equals null, I plus plus. Host equals get config, dot get string, get auth, I, auth underscore host underscore name. If, host equals null. Break. If, host dot equals. Break. Host authentication auth equals new host authentication. Host. Get config, dot get int, get auth, I, auth underscore port. Get config, dot get string, get auth, I, auth underscore user underscore name. Get config, dot get string, get auth, I, auth underscore password. Get config, dot get string, get auth, I, auth underscore realm. List auth dot add, auth. At return returns the HTTP state. Public HTTP state get state. Return HTTP state. At param HTTP state the HTTP state to set. Public void state, HTTP state. This dot HTTP state equals HTTP state. Foundation, Inc., 59 Temple Place Suite 330, Boston, Massachusetts 02111-1307 USA. Package org.paros proxy.paros. Import java.io.file. Import java.utility no such element exception. Import java.utility regex.matcher. Import java.utility regex.pattern. Import org.apache.commons.configuration exception. Import org.apache.commons.configuration.xml configuration. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log factory. Import org.parosproxy.paros.model.file copier. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public final class constant. Public static final string program underscore name equals paros. The config.xml must be set to be the same as the version underscore tag. Otherwise the config.xml will be overwritten every time. Public static final string program underscore version equals 3.2.13. Public static final long version underscore tag equals 300200013. Note the above. Public static final string program underscore title equals program underscore name plus program underscore version. Public static final string system underscore paros underscore user underscore log equals paros.user.log. Public static final string file underscore config equals someconfig.xml. Public static final string folder underscore plugin equals plugin. Public static final string folder underscore filter equals filter. Public static final string folder underscore session equals session. Public static final string name underscore template equals BOANCLOUD. Public static final string name underscore untitled equals folder underscore session plus untitled. Public static final string file underscore config underscore default equals someconfig.xml. Public string file underscore config equals config.xml. Public static final string folder underscore plugin equals plugin. Public static final string folder underscore filter equals filter. Public static final string folder underscore session underscore default equals session. Public string folder underscore session equals session. Public static final string name underscore template equals db plus system.get property, file.separator, plus parosp. Public static final string name underscore untitled underscore default equals folder underscore session underscore default plus system.get property, file.separator, plus untitled. Public string name underscore untitled equals folder underscore session plus system.get property, file.separator, plus untitled. Public string accepted underscore license underscore default equals accepted license. Public string accepted underscore license equals accepted underscore license underscore default. Private static constant instance equals null. Public static final int max underscore host underscore connection equals 5. Public static final string user underscore agent equals program underscore name plus program underscore version. Private static string status catcher equals program underscore name. Private static boolean static sp equals false. Private static pattern windows equals pattern.compile, window, pattern.case underscore insensitive. Private static pattern Linux equals pattern.compile, Linux, pattern.case underscore insensitive. Public static string get catcher. Return status catcher. Public static void set catcher, string catcher. Status catcher equals catcher. Public static void set sp, boolean is sp. Static sp equals is sp. Public static boolean is sp. Return static sp. Public constant. File copier equals new file copier. File f equals null. Log equals null. String user home equals system.get property, user.home. Default to use application directory log. System.set property, system underscore paros underscore user underscore log, log. If user home equals null and user home dot equals user home plus equals system.get property, file.separator, plus paros. F equals new file, user home. User home plus equals system.get property, file.separator. File underscore config equals user home plus file underscore config. Folder underscore session equals user home plus folder underscore session. Name underscore untitled equals user home plus name underscore untitled. Accepted underscore license equals user home plus accepted underscore license. Try. System.set property, system underscore paros underscore user underscore log, user home. System.setProperty, log4j.configuration, some log4j.properties. If f.is directory. f.mkdir. Log equals log factory.get log, constant.class. Log.info, created directory plus user home. Else. Log equals log factory.get log, constant.class. F equals new file, file underscore config. If f.is file. Log.info, copying defaults from plus file underscore config underscore default plus to plus file underscore config. Copier.copy, new file, file underscore config underscore default, f. Else. Try. XML configuration config equals new XML configuration, file underscore config. Config.set autosave, false. Config.load. Long ver equals config.get long, version. If, version underscore tag ver. Overwrite previous configuration file. Copier.copy, new file, file underscore config underscore default, f. Catch, configuration exception e. If there is any error in config file, e.g. config file not exist. Overwrite previous configuration file. Copier.copy, new file, file underscore config underscore default, f. Catch, no such element exception e. Overwrite previous configuration file if config file corrupted. Copier.copy, new file, file underscore config underscore default, f. F equals new file, folder underscore session. If, f.is directory. Log.info, creating directory plus folder underscore session. f.mkdir. Catch, exception e. System.error.println, unable to initialize home directory. Plus e.get message. e.print stack trace, system.error. System.exit, 1. Else. System.setProperty, log4j.configuration, some log4j.properties. File underscore config equals file underscore config underscore default. Folder underscore session equals folder underscore session underscore default. Name underscore untitled equals name underscore untitled underscore default. Accepted underscore license equals accepted underscore license underscore default. Public static constant get instance. If instance equals null. Instance equals new constant. Return instance. Public static boolean is Windows. String os underscore name equals system.get property, os.name. Matcher equals pattern windows.matcher, os underscore name. Return matcher.find. Public static boolean is Linux. String os underscore name equals system.get property, os.name. Matcher equals pattern linux.matcher, os underscore name. Return matcher.find. Package org.paros proxy.paros.control. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log. Import org.apache.commons.logging.log factory. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.scanner.plugin factory. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.autoupdate.extension autoupdate. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.edit.extension edit. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.encoder.extension encoder. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.filter.extension filter. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.history.extension history. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.manual request.extension manual request editor. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.option.extension option. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.pattern search.extension pattern search. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.report.extension report. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.scanner.extension scanner. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.spider.extension spider. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.state.extension state. Import org.paros proxy.paros.extension.trap.extension trap. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.model. Import org.paros proxy.paros.model.session. Import org.paros proxy.paros.view.view. Overall control with interaction on model and view. Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class control extends abstract control. Private static log equals log factory.get log, control.class. Private static control equals null. Private proxy equals null. Private menu file control equals null. Private menu tools control equals null. Private control, model, view. Super, model, view. Init. Private void init. Plugin factory.loadal plugin, model.getOptionsParam.getConfig. Start plugin loading. Load extension. If view equals null. No need to start proxy if no view. Get proxy. Get extension loader. Hook proxy listener. Get proxy. Post init. Get proxy. Start server. Public proxy get proxy. If proxy equals null. Proxy equals new proxy, model. Return proxy. Protected void add extension. Should be the first ext to load. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension option. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension edit. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension filter. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension pattern search. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension state. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension trap. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension history. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension encoder. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension spider. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension scanner. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension report. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension manual request editor. Get extension loader. Add extension, new extension auto update. Public menu file control get menu file control. If menu file control equals null. Menu file control equals new menu file control, model, view, this. Return menu file control. Public menu tools control get menu tools control. If menu tools control equals null. Menu tools control equals new menu tools control, model, view, this. Return menu tools control. Override inherited shutdown to add stopping proxy servers. Public void shutdown, Boolean compact. Get proxy, stop server. Super shutdown, compact. Public static control get singleton. Return control. Public static void init singleton with view. Control equals new control, model.get singleton, view.get singleton. Public static void init singleton without view. Control equals new control, model.get singleton, null. Public void run command line a new session, string file name, throws exception. Session equals new session, model. Log.info, new session file created. Model.sets assign, session. Control.get extension loader, .session change eval plugin, session. If file name ends with .session. File name plus equals .session. Session.save, file name. Get extension loader, .run command line. Public void run command lineo pen session, string file name. Session equals new session, model. Log.info, new session file created. Model.sets as Cyan, session. Control.get extension loader, .session change eval plugin, session. Package org.paros proxy.paros.db. Import java.sql.sql exception. Import java.utility vector. Import org.paros proxy.paros.core.spider listener. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public class database. Private static database equals null. Private database server equals null. Private table history equals null. Private table session equals null. Private table alert equals null. Private table scan equals null. Private vector listener list equals new vector. Public database. Table history equals new table history. Table session equals new table session. Table alert equals new table alert. Table scan equals new table scan. Add a tab as listener, table history. Add a tab as listener, table session. Add a tab as listener, table alert. Add a tab as listener, table scan. At return returns the database server. Public database server get database server. Return database server. At param database server the database server to set. Private void set database server, database server. This database server equals database server. At param table history the table history to set. Private void settable history, table history. This table history equals table history. Public table history gettable history. Return table history. At return returns the table session. Public table session gettable session. Return table session. At param table session the table session to set. Private void settable session, table session. This table session equals table session. Public static database gets Ingleton. If database equals null. Database equals new database. Return database. Public void add a tab as listener, database listener. Listener list.add, listener. Public void removed a tab as listener, spider listener. Listener list.remove, listener. Private void notify listener to tab as open, throws SQL exception. Database listener equals null. 4. Int I equals 0, I listener list.size, I++. Listener equals, database listener list.get, I. Listener.database open, get database server. Public void open, string path, throws class not found exception. Set database server, new database server, path. Notify listener database open. Public void close, boolean compact. If database server equals null, return. Try. Perform cleanup. Gettable history, delete temporary. Shutdown. Get database server, shutdown, compact. Catch, exception print stack trace. At return returns the table alert. Public table alert gettable alert. Return table alert. At param table alert the table alert to set. Public void settable alert, table alert. This table alert equals table alert. At return returns the table scan. Public table scan gettable scan. Return table scan. At param table scan the table scan to set. Public void settable scan, table scan. This .tablescan equals tablescan. Package org.paros proxy.paros.db. Import java.sql.sql exception. To change the template for this generated type comment, go to Window, Preferences, Java, Code Generation, Code and Comments. Public Interface Database Listener. Public Void Database Open, Database Server DB Server, throws SQL exception.